Thanks for coming out on this freezing cold night. Nice to see everybody here. Welcome to our 8th grade to 9th grade curriculum night presentation. So I'm just going to start off by introducing some of the people who are here tonight. So start with me. My name is Doug Walker. I'm the principal here at Chatham High School. Just a little brief information about me. This is my 13th year here at Chatham High School. My background obviously has been in education. I was a technology, computer science teacher. I was a supervisor. I was a technology coordinator, and for a number of years here at the high school, I was an assistant principal, and my main area of responsibility was on the academic side, overseeing school counseling, student supports, and things like that. But as an assistant principal, which my colleagues here will say, you kind of do everything. As a principal, you definitely do everything. And just a little more background on me is I've been in your seat. Okay, I have two boys. One is in 10th grade in high school, and one is in 7th grade. And if I ask this question, I'm sure you'll give a response. I think if I ask you how many of you think your child is ready to go to high school, maybe a portion of the hands will go up. And I felt the same way with my kids, and they do figure it out, and it goes well. And we'll talk about that tonight. To my left is Lori Geronda. Lori is one of our assistant principals. Lori has been at Chatham High School since 1994. She started here as a biology teacher, different levels of biology, has been a dean of students, assistant principal, and Lori has also been in your seat. Lori's raised 2 children who have recently graduated from college and has been through the process. And then to her left is Connor Henderson, who is our assistant principal. And Connor Henderson has been here for 14 years, and he started out here originally as a teacher in our videography, video production area, and has been a dean of students and assistant principal. And Connor has children, but they're still just out of napping, and they still throw up when they get sick all the time and that kind of stuff. So he's got his hands full. But each of us have backgrounds as students and as in different aspects of school. Connor was a high school and college athlete. I was a high school and college athlete. Lori was a high school and college band member. So we have a lot of longevity here as leaders, and institutional knowledge of the school and the district, and a lot of varied experiences both in being students through many of the aspects of high school ourselves, and working with thousands of students over the years. So I think we bring a lot to the table, work really well together, and I hope you'll find that as well in over the next 4 years while your children are here. I forgot to mention he's not here, so we do have another member of our administrative team, Darren D'Alconzo. He is our director of athletics. Usually is not at our nighttime events because he's always on a field or an ice rink or something somewhere, but he manages all of our athletic programs, and you'll hear more about those things in our presentation that we do in the spring, but we have 36 active athletic teams here, so it's a handful of a job, but he's another member of our team. Okay, so tonight's presentation is we call Curriculum Night. And the focus of this is we're starting the scheduling process for high school. And so tonight's presentation is going to talk mostly about that. So we're going to talk about our scheduling process, our program of studies, like our course catalog. We'll talk about the core courses that your students will be taking, the electives, and like that process. So we focus this presentation on answering those questions, the course levels. What does a 4-year course sequence look like? So that's what you're going to hear about mostly tonight in preparation for that scheduling process, which is upcoming. In the spring, we'll host another parent presentation that is really more about the orientation to high school. What is the day in the life in high school? How does our schedule work? What do kids do for lunch? Like those ins and outs of, where do we drop off in the morning? School start times, things like that. That's where we'll get into all of that. During that time in the spring also, the students come up here from the middle school during the day. They get bussed up here. We do a presentation for them, and then they go on tours of the school with our upperclassmen students to take them on tours while school is in session, so they get a feel for what high school is like, walk the halls with kids here, kind of hope that takes away any nerves that they might have of coming to the building when they see it actually operating with students in it. So we'll do that in the spring. So tonight is more about the courses, scheduling, things like that. Okay, so again, our agenda is preparing for course selection. We're going to talk about the academic levels. Connor Henderson's going to go through our elective areas so you have an idea on the course options there, because that's where the students and parents here will be making choices, and talk about the 4-year vision. And I just wanted to add that everything here tonight is we're recorded, and the slides obviously are the slides, so all of this will be accessible. We'll send it out to you, post it on our website, so you don't have to write everything down and things like that. You'll have access to all of this. All right, so we'll talk first about course selection, some basics of high school. Let me ask, how many people is it your first child coming to high school? Yeah, okay, good. So, again, just some basics about high school, because obviously there are some differences from high school, between middle school and high school. In high school, every course receives credits, right? So we have full-year courses or half-year courses we call semester courses, right? So a full-year course here at the high school earns 5 credits. Completion of a full-year course is 5 credits. Completion of a semester course, half of that, 2.5 credits. Science is a little different because science has an additional lab period. It's a half of a lunch period where kids stay in their science class when it connects to lunch on either the beginning of lunch or after lunch on one day of our rotation. And so there's an extended lab period. Every single one of our science classes is a lab. So whether that's a full year physics course or biology, or it's a half year on forensics or anatomy and physiology or marine sciences, they all have labs. So therefore, those courses get 6 credits for a full year and 3 credits for a half year. Study hall, a large number of our students take a study hall. I'd say it's probably somewhere in the 80% or so. Our students, you have 8 options in your schedule. It can be fairly rigorous for some students, and having a study hall gives them a chance to catch up on work and get things done. And so I'll talk a little bit more about how that fits in, but no credits on study hall. So I tell you this, 5 credits for full year, 6 credits for science full year, because in order to graduate high school in New Jersey, you need to accumulate 120 credits. That's the minimum. You can accumulate much more, but the minimum is 120. And this is from the New Jersey Department of Education, and you can see, starts off, the only 2 classes that you have to take 4 years of is English and physical education, health. That has to be each year you're in high school. All the other core subjects have a minimum of 15 credits, meaning 3 years. Doesn't mean you don't take 4 of each. A lot of our students do take 4, but that's how it adds up. And so you have 15 credits in science, social studies, minimum of 10 credits in world language, so that'd be a minimum of 2 years in world language. And then there are 2 elective areas, visual or performing arts is one, and 21st century life and careers. Those are within those categories, there are a lot of different options, and that's what Mr. Henderson's gonna go over with you tonight, so you have an idea on that. 5 credits is just 2 semester courses in 1 year. You can absolutely take many more as you go through high school. Every student to graduate high school in New Jersey has to take a 2.5 credit class in financial literacy. This was started I guess around after 2008, some of the financial crisis that, they kind of made a decision that we need to start teaching students personal finance. So this is buying a house, buying versus leasing a car, renting, insurance, life skill financial things. If you think about those things, a lot of times students try to register for this class in freshman year or want to get out of the way, but it's much more relevant the closer they are to actually doing those things, right? So kind of keep that in mind. Doesn't mean you can't take it in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, but as what I noticed when I observed those classes, the kids participating more are the kids in the upper grade levels because they're starting to think about this. I'm going off to college, I'm gonna get a credit card, we do things like that. So, and then in order to hit 120 credits, you need an additional 12.5 credits total. So that's the bare minimum. And then to graduate high school in New Jersey, there is an assessment that's given in grade 11 called the NJGPA, and meeting a passing score on the English language arts and the math. will meet the graduation requirement, but just know that there are other alternative pathways if a student doesn't pass on that first time. So we have 100% graduation rate with the NJ GPA, so, or the alternatives. Okay, so this is a typical 4-year worksheet. It's a sample worksheet. If you look, you have the first column's grade 9 going up to grade 12. As I mentioned before, the only 2 courses that are 4-year requirements at the minimum are English and comprehensive health, physical education, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Every student's going to have a math class and a science class. In math, it can be different because students are at different levels of math in the middle school. For science, it's going to be biology for all the students. And then United States History 1 is how we start, that's our progression. And whichever world language that you're persisting in from the middle school. And then you have 2 open periods. And the 2 open periods can be filled how you'd like them to be. Give a couple options, like I mentioned, if you choose to take a study hall, that could be one of those periods. And then the other would be an elective, and that would either be a full year elective or 2 half-year electives, which you'll hear about from Mr. Henderson. Some students choose to do elective. They don't need a study hall, totally fine. You can fill it up with 2 electives. Sometimes students who are in our band or chorus do that because band or chorus is a full year class, and they also want to take something else. So, because they'll take that every year, band or chorus or orchestra. So that's an option. And the only, we do require every student in the school to always have at least 6 courses. So yes, you can have 2 study halls. I would never recommend a freshman to have 2 study halls, but there are sometimes some are seniors who will carry 2 study halls in senior year, which is fine. And as it goes across, you can see that as you get into junior and senior year, you have a lot more options. Now, like I said, do a majority of our students continue with math, science, social studies, or language through 4 years? Yes. Right? And when you start talking about life after high school, when you're looking to college entrance and applications, the more rigorous your schedule, and the more that you take core classes across the way, obviously the more opportunities that presents for you. Okay, so we'll talk about course levels. So we do have a number of levels. And so in our first category, which is all umbrellaed under college preparatory, and I'll preface this by saying there is no level of a course that precludes you from going to college. There's no that level, you took it, you absolutely, colleges are saying, sorry, you can't come to school. But obviously with each of these levels, there's a different rigor, and the students are developing different levels of skill or have different levels of skills. And so the levels you're in could have an impact on the rigor of the place you go after high school, but it doesn't preclude you from going. And I'll show you some data that validates that. But our level C in college prep, that is a special education level. That's a replacement level. Okay, so that's for students with IEPs who will get the content of that subject, but also have some additional learning goals and some modifications to reach the skills and mastery of the content there. And then we have our levels A and B. So our level A would be a standard college prep class, one teacher in the room, taught standardized curriculum. Our level B mimics that level A. Same curriculum in terms of covering the same content from September or August until June. What we do in that level, that it would be ideal for students who require a little additional support. It's a general education class. We typically do put 2 adults in the room in that class, especially in grades 9 and 10. It's usually a general ed teacher and a special education teacher in that content area. And we build those classes a little bit smaller, right? So if our A-level classes range from say 20, 24 students in a class, sometimes the way the schedule builds, they're a little smaller. Rarely do they go over 24. The B-level classes might have anywhere from 14 to 17 kids inside them. So a little smaller and a little more support, so it allows for students who need that extra support to receive it. And it is a general ed college prep class. And then we have our honors level classes in 9th grade. We also have advanced placement. There are no advanced placement classes in 9th grade, but we have our honors level. And again, We're all covering the same curriculum, but we're going in different layers of depth and expectations, right? So your child's teachers are making recommendations for what level they think is appropriate. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But you also know your students, and you know, so the higher the levels you go up, there's a little more expectation of rigor, maybe the type of writing, the ability to work independently, the ability, the level of assistance that you need sort of increases with the level of course that you go with. All right, so what will you recognize, right? So for students here in the room, some things from middle school to high school are going to be fairly similar. In writing, in English, you're going to still continue to write in various forms. You're going to read from multiple genres, and you'll be conducting literature analysis, all things that you're doing in middle school now. That will be the same. In history, you'll be still analyzing, interpreting primary and secondary source evidence, supporting your judgments, making claims, things like that, and having a lot of discussions in social studies. Social studies uses a lot of primary source documents and really tries to look at various angles on things. In math, you'll continue to solve problems in different ways. You'll continue to apply concepts. There'll be a lot of opportunity for collaborative learning in the math classes. And in science, all of our sciences are inquiry-based. I mentioned they're all lab sciences. Everything is an inquiry-based science class. What will look different in high school is there will absolutely be some increased expectations in work, in reading and writing, volume. There'll be a little more focused instruction in English on particular skills. So you'll see a little bit of an increase in that. And that also will depend upon the level of the class that you're in. There'll be a more sophisticated analysis of texts. You'll start seeing things like Socratic discussions going on in history classes, students engaging with each other in some deeper conversations about the things they're reading and studying. There'll be a little more emphasis on explaining process in math, conceptual understanding of math. You'll see that develop. Laboratory skills will increase from middle school to high school, the scientific inquiry, that methodology. And there'll be interactions with students across grade levels, something you don't have a lot of in middle school. But in the high school, we have our English 9s, they say all 9th graders. US History 1, for the most part, is going to be all 9th graders. But when you start getting into some of the electives, they're intergrade level. So as a freshman in elective, you could be in a class with seniors or juniors. And a lot of benefits come from that. So that's where students will start to get some exposure to some of our kids. And I made the joke before, but when the kids come here from middle school, they're still kind of middle school students sometimes, so they don't kind of, they're clowning around a little bit sometimes. We have a long lunch periods of 54 minutes, and they eat in 10 minutes because they're used to eating in 20 minutes down in middle school, and then they're moving around the building, they kind of know what to do with themselves, playing tag and stuff like that. But then they start looking around and they start to see our juniors or seniors or 17, 18 years old, and they're not doing those things, and they realize right away, like, hey, this is it's a little different, and you start to see it change. And you'll see that too when they're in classes with upperclassmen students. They're really, really great role models for the kids. And as a parent, you'll see a change. You'll see a change October, November. And I saw it with my own son who's in 10th grade. And then what I know is you're gonna see a change again in 10th to 11th grade. We see that all the time. There's a maturity that happens. I personally can't wait for that, my own son, 10th to 11th grade. And I'm hoping I'm seeing a few things but they come a little more future focused at that point, and they've just matured. So I digressed a bit there, but I wanted to just share that with you. So the middle school teachers are going to be making recommendations for your children for the courses here at the high school. It's going to be happening, if it's might have started now. I actually think they're going to start them in a few days. I work very closely with the middle school administration, and all teachers have been asked to have recommendations in by the end of this month, by the 31st. Same thing at the high school. So they're going to start that process. Now, a couple of things. So when they look at how to make a recommendation, I will say, I can say this with a lot of confidence, they do a good job. In all the years that I've been here, I find that the vast majority of the students that are recommended from the middle school to whatever level they're placed at is appropriate, and the kids do well. It's very unoften. It's not often that I find like a misplaced student, right? To be quite honest with you, majority of those misplaced, and we'll talk about that sometimes, is when there's waivers, when somebody waives the recommendation. It goes, that's where I'll see sometimes some more movement when that can happen. But for the most part, the teachers do a nice job. The reason that happens is because there's an incredible amount of articulation between the high school teachers and the middle school teachers. They work in the same department, they have the same supervisor. There are times where they get together during department meetings as a whole. Throughout the year, and just happened recently, the middle school teachers get some professional time, and they come up, the 8th grade teachers, some of them come up to the high school to observe some of the level classes. Like we had some science teachers here recently observing B-level biology classes. Sometimes you have some teachers who maybe are newer in the district, or it's been a while, and they want to just come up and see what the instruction in that course looks like so they can have a real good understanding. So with that, they have a really good understanding of what the courses are they're recommending for and the profile of a student who does well there. When teachers are making recommendations, they're not just looking at what is the grade. I mean, the grade is a factor, but there's a lot more when you peel back the grade that they're looking at. So there's some, just some ideas. Yes, they're looking at overall achievement. They might look specifically at a little more at assessment grades, right? If you think about the grades your kids get, there are some grades that they get for things that demonstrate what they know, or what, how they were able to show mastery. And there's some grades that are more process grades, assignment completions, things like that. And what we really want to look at for mastery is, how they do on assessments and things like that. They'll look at, they'll obviously know what the specific skills are for the course they're recommending for, and try to evaluate your child according to that. They look to see how self-directed a student is. If they're kind of growth-oriented, they're looking to improve, they put effort in, and how do they respond to feedback? What level of support do they need? How independent are they? Can they maintain the pacing of the courses they're in? And that helps them determine, what would be the right level. So like these factors all go in, and there'll be some method of communication down below even at your school with you if there's a recommendation. And then what will happen is in February, and you'll hear from me on this, you'll be able to go into the parent portal and view these recommendations. And then of course, if you have questions or concerns or anything, you can reach out to the teacher. And I also will provide the contact information for the supervisors if you want to speak with them, because they have a really solid understanding of all the courses, because they observe and evaluate those teachers and write curriculum, and they're content specialists in their area. Okay, so the program of studies is our course catalog. It's a 90-page document, it has every single course that is offered in high school, everything you need to know about that course, from a description, grade level, prerequisites. It also has some of our policies regarding scheduling, schedule changes, stuff like that. So the program of studies I presented to the Board of Education on Monday night. It was approved, and now that it's approved, I'm just putting some final touches on it, and I will be releasing that, I believe, tomorrow, and I'll let everyone know that it's there so you can see it. Not a lot of changes from the program of studies of last year, so if you looked at that, but we do have this year, each year we have some new courses that are being offered. So what I will be sharing with you is the program of studies, and then a presentation of all the new courses that are added to the program of studies, because for you guys, they're all new, right? But you'll have some idea on what's being added there. And so when you open up the program of studies, when you go to each department, you're going to see first, like when you go to English, you're going to see like a flow chart. And this just gives you an idea of the sequence of courses within each content area. So you can kind of look at where you're at now and then look ahead to see where things are going. Now, there are straight lines across, but you notice in parentheses, you're never locked into a level. So, if you're in English 9A in freshman year and you do really well, you meet a lot of the benchmarks that I mentioned there that the teachers look for in recommendations, there's nothing that says you don't get a recommendation for honors English 10 that next year. It may be that you're really, really strong in humanities, and writing and reading, and you might have an honors recommendation for honors English 9, but your math is a challenge, and you may be in an A or B level math, completely fine. We have plenty of students who have a variety of levels in their schedule, and you are able to progress either horizontally, vertically, or down. So a lot of flexibility, but you'll see this in every content area. And then when you go into each individual course, it kind of looks like this. There'll be a title of the course. It'll tell you which grade levels can take that course. So for you guys, you're paying attention to, in electives in particular, to courses that have a grade 9 there. And is it a half year or a full year? So semester or a full year. And are there any prerequisites? And you'll just pay attention to that. If you're starting to look ahead, and you say, wow, I see that an AP computer science class. I really want to take that someday. Well, take a look at that sequence and look at what the prerequisites are to get there, because you probably want to maybe look at taking one of those in freshman year to kind of build that sequence. And then there'll be a description of the course. Again, we're filling 2 boxes, so when the portal opens in February, and I'll alert you of that, you're going to see the 6 classes that were recommended for your child, and you're going to be asked to pick some electives. And what we do is we ask you to pick up to 5 and rank them. This is my number 1 choice, my 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's all you're going to do. What are the 5 electives that you are interested in taking from the options into the 21st century or the fine and performing arts? And then a couple weeks from there, the high school counselors, some administrators go down to the middle school, and we meet with every 8th grader during their phys ed class at a table, and we go through the recommendations from the teacher and what you guys selected in the portal, and we finalize those requests then. So at that point, we'll ask, did you plan on taking a study hall? You'll have discussed that with your child, and if they say yes, great, then we're going to only fill either 2 semester electives or 1 full year. So does that make sense to everybody? That's the process. Nothing is locked. Like, we start scheduling in April. I start hitting the button in April, where I say hit the button. It's like a 6-week process. It's over 10,000 seats in this schedule. It's pretty complicated, but we'll lock any schedule changes while that's happening. But then once the schedule is available, we still can make changes. You change my mind, I want to take a different elective. The issue with that is the schedule's already built. So now it's a matter of what fits into your schedule. So anything we put in before April goes in before the schedule is built. Anything after then, the schedule's already made and it's a matter of what fits. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Connor Ederson, and he's going to take you through the electives. It's a lot, right? I mentioned the flow charts. You're not going to remember them all, but pay attention to the left side of the flow charts, and know that you'll have access to this when you receive these documents. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to assume that's for me and not Dr. Walker wrapping his portion. So I want to start and just go back to this slide because we have, students are recommended for 6 courses, and then they have 2 slots in their schedule available to choose an elective or a study hall. And when the administrators and the counselors go to the middle school in a few weeks, the first thing that we'll ask a student when we sit down to review their recommendations and select their electives, the first question we always ask is, would you like to take a study hall? Would you like to take a half-year study hall or a full-year study hall? So I really think that's a good place for each student to kind of start their selection of electives. As Dr. Walker said, many students do take a full-year study hall. We recommend it. It's really a personal decision, and I would just consider, 1, the course load that the student's taking on next year, and then the after-school commitments that they have. If you have a rigorous course load, but plenty of time after school to complete all of that academic work, and you're comfortable with having your full school day filled with courses, then don't take a study hall. If you have a rigorous course load, or just naturally concerned about the transition to high school, and you know that you're very busy after school most days, you probably want to take a study hall to give yourself some time during the school day and throughout the week to meet with teachers, keep up on some of your academic work during the day. And that's why a majority of our students do opt for a study hall. And you can see there are plenty of opportunities to take electives, especially junior and senior year, where the students have more flexibility, and there will be no problem meeting the 120 credit requirement, even if you take a study hall, a full year study hall every year, right? So Once you determine whether you're going to take a half year or a full year or no study at all, then you can really decide which electives you want to take. In terms of our electives, you'll see we have a wide variety of offerings. It's something that we really take pride in. I'm a former elective teacher here, so I especially take pride in it. But there are really two different pathways to consider. Some students may take an introductory course in every different area that we offer in the high school. And at the end of the 4 years, they can really say, okay, I tried it all. I tried computer science, I tried business, I tried video production, culinary, engineering, and I decided that this is what I want to pursue at the next level or pursue a career in. Other students identify that earlier. Some, I would say, rarely coming into high school, but maybe after freshman or sophomore year, they really have an area of interest, and they can pursue that interest through a series of courses. And I'm going to take you through some of those sequences. So the Fine and Performing Arts courses, it's a minimum of 5 credits is the graduation requirement. That's 1 full year or 2 semester courses. And the first track that we have is in visual arts. So all students would start with one of the prerequisite courses. So on the left side, we have Experiencing Fine Art. If a student is currently taking Studio Art 8 in CMS, that would actually count as the prerequisite, so they could progress into the next area in the sequence. And then finally, a visual journaling class. It's a new course that we're offering that will meet the prerequisite. Once that prerequisite is met by taking one of these 3 courses, one of them a CMS course, then students can progress into either the 2D art track, which you see on top, drawing, painting, progressing to AP 2D drawing, or our 3-dimensional art track, ceramics, sculpture, metal and fiber arts, which eventually by senior year gets you to the AP 3D art course if interested. For students who are interested in computer-based art, we also offer graphic design 1 and 2. So students can take those 2 courses, meet the 5 credit requirement without taking a hands-on art course. So there really is something for everyone here. Next, in the visual and performing arts, we have our theater courses. So Theater Arts 1, 2, and Theater Arts Studio really focus on the production, the performance, the screenplay writing, and story, whereas our Stagecraft elective, Stagecraft 1 and 2, focus more on the behind the scenes in the production. Our stage crew is really popular. I know that's popular at CMS as well. So students who are interested in audio, lighting, set construction, we have 2 semester courses in that area. Our music courses, along the left side, these courses are available to any 9th grader. That's concert choir, concert orchestra, and symphonic band. Then as you progress in the sequence on the right, voices, chamber choir, chamber orchestra, and wind ensemble, those are courses that a student would have to audition to be a part of. On the right side, we have some semester electives. These are not performance-based classes necessarily, but they're for any student who has an interest in music, even just listening to music or music production. So our semester electives, music theory, piano lab, critical music analysis, which is really a music appreciation course. That's one of our new classes, really understanding how to listen to and analyze music. And then music technology and sound engineering, so music production, which has become really popular. So those are the courses that are available in the visual and performing arts. Again, it's a minimum of 5 credits, but obviously you can go well beyond that. So I encourage, when you have the time to read through the program of studies, find what you might be interested in. You don't need to take a visual and performing arts course during freshman year. Just by the end of your 4 years, you need to take a total of 5 credits. Next is the 21st Century Life and Careers area. Once again, that's a minimum of 5 credits by the end of high school. So I'll take you through the different tracks here. First is Family and Consumer Science, so we have Culinary Arts 1 and 2, Early Childhood Development, and then Fashion Design, Construction, and Textile. These are all semester courses, very popular courses. Next is our business sequence. So I'll just start at the, I'm actually going to first highlight financial literacy, which Dr. Walker spoke a bit about earlier. That is a separate New Jersey graduation requirement, so every student must complete financial literacy. The replacement for that requirement can also be met by taking AP Economics, which maybe a course a junior or a senior might take, but otherwise students would need to take this semester financial literacy course. It is about personal finance. It may be more relevant taking that course junior or senior year. But again, that's really up to the student and parent on when they take that class. Along the top, the sequence, all students would start with Business 101, who choose the business program, and then they can progress into either marketing strategies or investments, and then they finally get to the capstone of honors entrepreneurship. At the bottom, we have a career exploration course, which requires a child study team recommendation. So this is a course for students with IEPs, and there's a secondary course there. And then a new course and program we've developed is work-based learning. So seniors who are going to be recommended by their counselor for this program can actually earn high school credit for working in the afternoon and kind of getting exposure to the work environment. But that's many years away for our current 8th graders. Okay, next at the top, I'll just highlight the video media sequence. We have a standalone course in digital media design that focuses on the Adobe programs and graphic design. And then students can progress in the video and television and film sequence with 3 courses. At the bottom, our engineering and architecture sequence begins with Intro to Design and Innovation. All students would take that prerequisite course and then can either choose to focus on 3D engineering design or architecture, and then finally get to the capstone course, Honors Design Studio. And you'll mention that some of these capstone courses are honors level because students who have committed 3 years to this area and really have a lot of experience are doing work that directly translates to a college program in that area. Our computer science and robotics sequence is combined because there is a lot of overlap with with coding. It's really a matter of deciding what you're most interested in. Robotics will give you kind of a hybrid experience of coding and hands-on building and kind of manipulating the robot. Our advanced robotics course also participates in FIRST Robotics and had a lot of success in the competitions. So there are a few different ways to get there. Students can start by taking either Robotics and Controls, a semester course, or Game Design with Python, which is more of a coding-based class. By taking either one of those prerequisites, they can then advance into the computer science track with Programming with Java or AP Computer Science Principles. Or they can go into advanced robotics. So that prerequisite can be met with robotics and controls or game design to move on into that sequence. We have a standalone cybersecurity course, which is highly relevant. It doesn't focus, it's not too heavy on coding. It's really more about understanding the way that cybersecurity works, kind of understanding the principles and theory there. So that's a standalone course that any student could take. Okay, so that wraps the 21st century sequences. Again, it's 5 credits by the end of your 4 years, and you can choose to take those classes kind of whenever you're interested and feel that you're prepared. Finally, I just want to highlight that course waivers are available. Dr. Walker shared the flow chart, and we'll use English as an example since that's the one that you all saw. if there's a teacher recommendation that will be input within the next few weeks. And as a parent, you do have the opportunity to bypass that recommendation and waive your child into a higher level. That may be from B to A or A to honors, and you do have that opportunity. That first waiver window is open from February 3rd to March 6th. And in order to waive your student into a higher level course, you would go onto our counseling website and find the scheduling information. There's a Google form for each content area. And you complete that form, and if you complete it within the first window, between February 3rd and March 6th, we would be able to accommodate the request and ensure that a seat is available for the student in that level. There are a few things to consider with a waiver that I'll talk about in a minute, but any student who, any waiver that's submitted within that first window will be accommodated, and that student will have a seat. That's because our master schedule hasn't been built yet. After the master schedule is built, we'll open up a second waiver window, because maybe you've had more time to consider this decision, maybe some things have changed, maybe a student is now excelling in a class and has really shown a lot of growth where you may have been hesitant in January or February. So the second waiver window is open from May 10th to the 17th, and you'll be notified of this. Once again, those Google forms will be available online. Any waiver that is submitted in the second window can only be accommodated if there is a seat available. And that really depends on how many sections of that course we currently have, how many seats are available, and whether it would fit with your child's schedule that has already been built. So there are no guarantees with the second waiver, but obviously we do our best to fill any open seats with a waiver that's submitted. And finally, it's an important decision to submit the waiver because it does come with increase and possibly an increased workload, increased rigor, increased independence on the student. I really would put a lot of weight into the teacher's recommendation, and Dr. Walker shared about some of the collaboration that exists between the 8th and 9th grade teachers and some of the experience of the CMS teachers. So it really is something to consider, but as a parent, you do have that opportunity. Finally, a student who does submit a waiver and enrolls in a course, they must remain in that course until the end of the first quarter of school. That typically is around November 1st. So they're committing by submitting the waiver to staying in that class until November 1st, and their grade does transfer if they choose to move back to the recommended level. So a student who may take a chance, waive into a higher level class, and really struggle, we just want everyone to understand that you're committing to staying in that class for the first few months, and the grade that is earned carries over to that next class. So it's a little bit of a risk, but something that you want to weigh and really consider when making that decision. Okay. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm going to pass it back off to Dr. Walker, who's just going to wrap up with a little bit about kind of the four-year plan.
So, like I said, there's a lot there. We only really focused on the two areas, fine performing arts and 21st century, and really the electives in the left side of those charts that are available to 9th graders. When you saw the charts I showed before, the 4-year with all the empty spots, there's a lot more electives at Chatham High School in the content areas that don't meet graduation requirements but count towards credits, but they're just not, most of them aren't available to grade 9, but you'll see them in the program of studies. A number of new courses that are being offered starting this year, in really innovative areas, the new podcasting class that we have starting right now, things like that. There's a number of AP courses, so there's a lot of other options, but in the beginning, you're looking at kind of satisfying those required graduation requirements in the fine and performing arts in the 21st century. The electives to me, my philosophy on high school electives is this is a chance for kids to try something that they think they might be interested in. Most of them are semester courses, so you're only in it for half a semester and you give it a shot. You might take that course and say, you know what, I am never taking another computer science class again, and that's fine, but at least you gave it a shot because at this point you're still really discovering what interests you, and it's kind of a low risk to go in there. The rigor of those first level classes are not that hard. You're not more than likely not going to end up with a really bad grade, but you may not like the class, or you might love it, and then you can see if you find something you love, there's a sequence then that you could follow, and you can sort of specialize. So my advice, that I give is, transition to high school is a transition, right? The big transition points of school is every time you change a new school, there's a transition to that. So going from 8th to 9th grade, it's a big transition. So when you're starting to look at building your schedule, you absolutely want to build a schedule that's appropriate for your child, that challenges them appropriately, pushes them outside their comfort zone a bit, and makes them start to, the growth and development that we expect to see. But your kids, right? And some kids are ready to go and they can handle a lot, and some maybe they might struggle a little bit more with the transition, or they need a little slower progression. And so build a schedule, that's appropriate for freshman year, and recognizing too what other activities, what other things is your child involved with, and finding that balance is important. You're gonna give them time. There's an acclimation period to come into high school. They're gonna start to acclimate, get some confidence, build independence. It happens absolutely. For some kids it happens a little faster than others, but they do get there. So just consider those factors as you're developing the course schedule. So when I mentioned recommendations, like if a teacher recommends a student for level A of a course, and you do decide you have a different opinion and you want to waive, you can waive to the honors. But on the flip side, if a teacher recommends for the honors, let's say you have honors recommendations in every subject, when you meet with the counselor, you can say, I know I got honors for all of them, but I don't really love, pick on history, and there's maybe a lot of writing in there. I think to balance my schedule, I'm going to take A-level history, but I'll take the honors and the others. Totally fine. You can just do that with the counselors. You can go back. So that's how that works. We worry about outcomes. You're in good hands. Just as a sneak peek on the report of graduates that I'll give to the Board of Education every year. It'll be coming up in a couple of months. But you can see that the vast majority of our students that graduate Chatham High School are prepared to go on to further their education. Percentages going to four-year schools. Our 3%ers and other, that doesn't mean that they couldn't go to college. In many cases, it means they chose not to. Those are students who are some of them are entering trade programs. Some of those students are in the vocational high school part-time in welding and carpentry and auto mechanics, and they're in those programs. Some of those students are in our 18 or special education. They're in our 18 to 21-year-old program, which does a really fantastic job of life skills development and job placements and job coaching, and they go out and they work. So there's a variety of pathways for each student, but you're in good hands here. Another common misconception is that everybody takes honors classes and everybody gets straight A's, and that's not the case. Here's just a snapshot of our current senior class in terms of where GPAs fall, and you can see over 50% of our kids are below a 4.0 in that 3.0 range or above there. So there is diversity in how kids perform in terms of grades and the weighted classes versus unweighted classes they take, but you see the outcomes are all fairly solid. Give you another snapshot of that. Here's I just pulled some samples of universities that kids in a GPA range of 3 to 4.0 matriculated to over the years. A really nice choice of universities there. Just a small snapshot. I can go on forever with this, but just wanted to give you an idea that there's great pathways for everybody. And I wanted to highlight also, I took a quick snapshot that here are students who in 9th grade didn't take one honors class, and here are colleges those students had acceptances to. So there's a misconception that you have to load up to be able to have good options. It's just really not the case. A lot of post-secondary schools like to also see like growth and progression. So there's a lot of value in seeing as someone who increased their rigor over time. Sometimes that stands out a little more than just somebody who's just got all rigor, because there's they don't stand out as much with other students who have high rigor. But seeing that growth and over time goes a long way. So my message on this is just it's okay. If your child is recommended for an A level and that's the right placement, it's going to be okay. And we want them to have a good acclimation to the high school. And there's plenty of opportunity for them to continue to succeed moving forward. I will tell you that they will be prepared. And I talk about this at graduation speeches every year, and I tell the kids, it's not so much about the content that you're learning in the classes, and parents, how much of the content do you remember? I mean, you're gonna find, some of you maybe differently, there's gonna be a point very soon in high school where you're not gonna be able to help with the homework anymore. And it might have happened already in middle school and some of the math, because you don't always retain all that content. But it's the skills that they're learning here. Those skills are transferable. The ability to think critically, the ability to problem solve in math, the ability to communicate in writing. And I think we do a really nice job of developing those skills. Our teachers are very skills focused on the curriculum. And one of the reasons I know this is true is every year we have an alumni return day here. And graduates from the year prior come back, and we get a whole bunch that come, and we do a little panel up on the stage for our seniors, and they talk about, all right, I'm in college, I study here, what can I share with you to help you so you know what to expect and decisions I made. And the one common theme every single year the kids tell us, they tell me personally, is how well prepared they are when they leave here and compared to their peers in the places they are. They get compliments from their professors on their writing. They get compliments on so many aspects, and they thrive. And so, and this is at all levels. So what you can rest assured is no matter where you are in this puzzle, that the development and the growth and the skills that develop here are going to be very strong. And they're going to start taking the lead. You want to support that. Our idea is to have our students learn to self-advocate. We want to get to a point where they're emailing their teachers if there's a question or a concern, or they want to see why they didn't get what they thought on a test. Like, coach them to construct that email, get them in a position where they're comfortable speaking to their teachers, self-advocating, and we get them there. And that should be a goal of yours as well. And lastly, we all know this, that you don't grow and learn without challenges and setbacks, and there's going to be some. There's going to be a test that, geez, that didn't really go well. And for some kids, sometimes that's like the end of the world. I'll have a kid crying to me, I'm never going to go to college, it's over because I had this one bad test. And we all know that's not true, right? But they believe it, and sometimes some parents believe that too. Just recognize that it's all part of the learning process, that they get stronger and they become more resilient by going through those challenges, and just help them to see that. We do that, our counselors do that, our administrators do that, and it pays off in the long run. So there will be some hiccups, but we get them there. Okay, so again, timeline. As to wrap up here, teachers are starting the recommendation process down in the middle school. They're doing it here at the high school. They'll be in by the 31st of this month. That was what I've asked for all the schools to have them in by. Then we're going to have CHS administrators, actually going to be Mr. Hatterson, and I'll probably be down there as well, are going to go down and talk to the 8th graders. A similar conversation like this, but tailored more for them about electives and scheduling. So that's going to happen on February 11th. We're going to meet them 2 different times in that day. I think it's 2 different times. And then the parent portal is going to open on February 3rd for you guys to the 14th. And that's when you'll be able to go in, see the recommendations from the teachers, and then select those electives. All the instructions for all this will be sent to you. I believe I already sent to everyone like a scheduling timeline for the high school once, and I'll continue to send that out. And then on February 25th and 26th, we bring counselors, high school counselors down to the middle school. Some of our administrators go, and we sit with each student. They come up one at a time. We look at the portal, we look at the teacher recommendations, we look at the electives that you've selected, and we go through that process. Do you want to take a study hall, yes or no? Okay, then it means we're going to take, I see you picked 5 semester electives. Looks like, Business 101 was your number 1 choice, and Experiencing Fine Art was your number 2. Is that what you want to put as your here's your number one and number two. And that's what we do. And then we finalize that. And then what we do is before I start closing everything and start hitting the button, I learned my lesson on this. I send another message out to you to say, final requests are in the portal, please take a look, because sometimes kids change things at that table without talking to you. And that sometimes doesn't go well. So I give you a chance because they, I don't know, if you agree with a change they make at that table. So you'll get a chance to look at it real quick and say, oh, no, that's not what he's doing, and we'll fix it. But we'll do that, and then we build the schedule. And so it takes me, like I said, it takes us about 4 to 6 weeks to finalize the schedule. By sometime in May, we have basically a schedule. There's always a number of kids that have conflicts that have to be resolved, both from the 9th grade coming up and in our high school students. And that just means they wanted Business 101, but because of the other courses they took and the way business fell, it just doesn't fit. So they have to make a decision. So what we do for the 8th grade coming up is, because you picked 5 choices, we'll go with them whatever your number 3 or 4 or 5 is, and we'll discuss that. And then you can always make a change, but we try to simplify that for you. That's why, pick 5 that you'd be willing to take. The good thing is that everything counts in 9th grade. Any class you take is going to count towards the graduation requirement, so nothing goes to waste that way. And then what will happen after that is we release schedules here at the high school by early June. So by early June, you'll get a message, you'll be able to log in, and you'll see what your schedule is for the next school year. The only thing I will tell you, and I'll tell you this then, is that the courses you have will not change. But over the summer, we do some balancing, because there's movement that happens. Kids change courses, and so what I try to do is balance classes, because inevitably if 6 or 7 or 8 kids drop from one class because they're moving things and the numbers become unbalanced, I got 24 kids in one English 9 class and 12 in another, I move kids around to balance it. So your teachers might change, the periods might change, but the courses you have will not change, just might be in a different place. And then we do that over the summer, and then prior to school opening, we open it up and give you your final schedule. So that's kind of our process. You'll get this timeline sent to you. My last thing, and this is a little early, but I've learned also we got to start early. So we talk a lot more about athletics in our May meeting, but we have 3 seasons of athletics, and they are rigid in terms of the NJSIA has specific timelines for things. And fall sports, they start early. Football, cheer, and tennis begin on August 11th, and all other fall sports begin on August 18th. So I tell you that now, we're 8 months out. Plan vacation schedules accordingly if your child is playing a fall sport, because the first days are mandatory. Vast majority, a lot of our teams, we have cuts sometimes, and there's tryouts and development, and so you have to be present. If there's a real extenuating circumstance, you'll communicate that with the coach. But you want to, the high school sports and the fall start early. So I wanted to add that in there just so you know now that by August 11th, if you're a football player, or tennis, or cheer, we're off and running. And then all the other fall sports start there. There'll be more information about this. In June, you'll be able to go onto the portal and start doing registration forms and things like that, but we'll get that out to you. You don't have to worry about that right now. Just wanted to get those dates in front of you. Okay, so as I said, tonight's presentation, the program of studies, supervisor contact information, all that will be shared with you so you can reference it, kind of digest it. The counselors at the middle school have pretty good knowledge of our schedule. Your 2 assistant principals, Mr. Gunis and Mr. Devine, all came from the high school setting, so they have really good understanding of the high school. Mr. Devine was a science teacher here and a supervisor here, so they have some good knowledge too. So if you speak to them, they can answer your questions just as well as we could. But we'll always take any questions that you have as you go through this process. And that would be it for our presentation. Any general questions, or if you'd like to come up, we'll stick around for a little bit. But thank you so much. Stay warm.